What's going on? Oh, I'm live. Hi. Hello. My name is Erin Stender, and today we're going to talk about the personal essay. Hope everyone is having a really good Friday. It's the last day of the week. Um, yes, so I am a recent graduate from Belmont University. I have an English writing degree, and I am a ASPA alum. I participated in programs for 3 years. I was a part of the long weekend, part of MJW, class of 2016. Woo! So yes, I have been involved with the programs for a long while. Making sure that's kind of what I had to say about me. I think so. One thing before we get started with this live stream is if you could grab like a pen and a piece of paper or like have a laptop open. So I want to do a little writing activity at some point during the stream. Yes, because the best way to get good at writing is reading and writing. So we're going to do a little bit of that today. So yeah, I think I'm just going to talk. If you have any questions or anything you want me to stop and clarify, you can just put them in the chat over there. Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of talk about like the personal essay in general. So when we think about personal essays, I think it's important to go back and deconstruct the essay itself. A lot of times we, as writers, think about that 5-paragraph essay or that critical essay or the standardized essay in a very stagnant format because that's what we've been taught in school. And it's very important a lot of times to write an argument or persuasive or whatever. But if we take a step back and kind of see that as a box that we have been participating in, we can kind of acknowledge that maybe there are different ways on how we define the essay. So generally, the essay term or kind of where it's comes from this guy named, I hope I don't slaughter this, Montaigne, who was a French essayist. And his essays were generally very philosophical, and they're really good if you read them, but he does a lot of questioning himself. It's all about the internal struggle of what he's going through. And I think that instead of being in the box of that structural essay like we think of it, we should kind of think about essays, and especially personal essays, as trying to grapple with a question or trying to answer some kind of question. So I kind of want to just go through things we look for in a personal essay and a way to like improve your own essay itself. So say you have a story you want to tell. You have something that happened to you or an experience that you know that you want to write about, but you don't really know where to start. Here are some like things to really think about your angle of going into that essay. Think about why you want to write that essay, why you feel like what your subject is and what you feel passionate about writing about, and why it is that you feel like this is the time to write it. Where are you in that process of your experience? Like, say my dog died. Where am I in the process of this experience? What did the dog mean to me? Do I need to process this in some way, right? Also, think about your perspective. You are writing about your dog dying, but that is an experience that a lot of people have had. So you're not just writing about yourself, but you're sharing the general human experience, right? Readers obviously want to see themselves in your experience, so you don't want to be too specific. You want to keep it broad enough that it appeals to your readers. But that being said, I want to encourage you to keep your own voice and include like quirky things like, oh, like my dog and I, when I would eat ice cream, I'd always let my dog lick the bowl or whatever. I don't know. Something like very specific. Like my dog has allergies. She's allergic to grass. So like that's a weird specific detail about my dog that other people might not get. But including the imagery and including things that are so like out there or like weird that happened to you that they like can't be anything but authentic, um, I would encourage you to include those, because I don't think that those are exclusionary to your human condition idea, right? So another thing I wanted to talk about was tone. Um, so personal essays obviously are a little bit more informal than you'd say like an academic essay or um, a business letter or whatever. But I would like to say, think about like you're writing a letter to your reader. Um, it's still an essay, so you still want to be maintaining, proper grammar and like things that are clear and concise, but you want and frank, you want to be authentic with your reader. But you can be a little bit more conversational in your tone and let your personal voice leak more into the essay. Um, don't overdo it though. I find with early amateur like early writing, especially personal essays, people tend to try to like force their voice, and you kind of have to just keep writing to find it. Um, the like inclusion of like comma right or don't you think is too direct and it's too like kitschy. You need to kind of just be more natural with it and let your voice develop as you mature as a writer. It'll show up, I promise. Don't be worried. It'll show up at a point. Um, Another thing I really want to get into at the heart of the personal essay is about questioning. You don't want to start an essay where you already know where it's going to end. You want to think like, say I'm grieving the loss of my dog. My dog is well and fine. I should also probably clarify that. My dog is fine. Still allergic to grass though. But say you're grieving the loss of your dog, right? You can be, if you're 2 days after it, maybe you need a little bit more time, right? But say it's 5 months later, you're about to get a new dog and you're feeling conflicted about that experience of like being so tied to this animal that died, and then also you're going to get a new dog and you feel like maybe there's change here that but you still haven't made peace with what happened there. That is the prime time to write your essay. You want to be like, I don't know what the ending of this essay is going to be. I don't know where this story is going to carry me forward, but I know that I need to process something that I am questioning inside myself, a conflict I have, something that is eating away at me in a small part. Those are the kind of essays we love to read. Those are the kind of personal essays. There's actually also a really good essay I have right here from one of my professors, Andrea Stover, Dr. Andrea Stover, who I took a personal essay class with, gave us this handout, and she is a lovely, lovely human and a wonderful writer. This essay is called The Fourth State of Matter by Jo Ann Beard, and I recommend everyone reads it because it's called a braid essay. It's a very chaotic essay in that there are a lot of pieces moving. She talks about her dog dying. She talks about squirrels that are in her attic. But the piece is ultimately about an event. I don't really want to spoil it, but an event that happens at the end where she is out of control of the events in her life. And by like the death of someone she knows and a really like horrifying event that happens to her, like she is able to braid together an essay to try and convey the feelings and the conflict she had within herself about not being able to be in control of anything, even though she desperately wanted to. I also think she's going through a divorce in this. This was a rough time for this writer, but the essay is wonderful. I think it was published in the New Yorker. Yes, so it's in the New Yorker. Look it up. Fourth State of Matter. So, where were we? Tone. Yes. Self-questioning. That's where we were. You really want to start asking yourself those questions, and you really want to, you might feel like you're like rambling to a point, but this is the place to ramble, to your point. I mean, not so far as it being philosophy, like it is a little bit more writing to a point than philosophy. But if you feel like you're rambling, you know what? That's what editing's for. You keep going, you keep questioning yourself and trying to answer and grapple with a question as you move forward into the essay. I also want to talk about, with that, this idea of a sense of movement. You, like that braid essay, it kind of wanders and braids in and out of ideas. There are a lot of different formats to essays, but you do, no matter to the personal essay. And formats is a loose word. You can kind of do what you want. But there are a lot of different formats that have kind of been introduced. But I was going to say, so all of those that I'll talk about in a minute wander and digress through different ideas. And they have a bit of art to them in that way. And if you feel like you need more examples of this, there are a lot of different essays. There's this essay by Virginia Woolf called it's called Death of a Moth. And it is a wonderful essay about, she's just like looking at a moth, but it's all about like the inevitability of death. And obviously that was a topic that Virginia Woolf fought with for a really long time. So that essay in many ways is very stagnant because she's just sitting looking at a moth, but she's watching this moth like struggle the whole time, if that makes sense. And using that metaphor to reflect her own struggle. There's also a format called the Zenitsu format. It's a Japanese essay format that is a lot more free-flowing. It's kind of like an idea-based, so you kind of just stream of consciousness, right? Almost like if you've ever read Faulkner, A Rose for Emily in high school, or anything like that. There is that stream of consciousness idea that he does, but even less formulaic than his, which I know you can say. Faulkner, obviously, he would go on for a while, but the Zenitsu is literally like thought for thought, what you're thinking and going into. But there's, I think, yes, I have it right here. This is from the Pillow Book, which is probably like a really old, I think it's like the birth of the Zenitsu form. Don't quote me on that. But the way that this writer separates it out is by like naming seasons and writing about the ways in which he's like looking at nature in the seasons. I would recommend looking up Zenitsu writing and just like reading some of those. I think when I did an essay on this, I was just thinking like my childhood. So I did what this guy did and separated it by seasons. And then I used each season to like do snapshot images of things in my youth. So like sitting in church and like picking blackberries, but they went back to back to back. So I was like, these are things that happened in the summer. I, skinned my knee riding a bike, but I wouldn't even say that. I'd be like a skinned knee riding my bike, period. The bitter taste of blackberries on my lips. It's a stream of consciousness flow. So that's another really cool. So we've talked about the braid, we've talked about the Zenitsu. There's a lot of like different kind of ideas on a way to write a personal essay out there. But I think that the most important thing is to like look inside and be like, what am I fighting with? What am I conflicting with? And kind of break it down from there. What else? Oh, I've written down, because you're sharing an experience with a reader, you want to make sure that you are aware that there's an audience there. A lot of times people will say like, don't write to an audience, write for yourself or whatever. Well, when you're writing for an audience, you're writing for an audience. So you want to be aware of their presence and you want to make sure they know that you are aware that they're reading. Maybe you're not like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but you are trying to keep them engaged, working to keep them engaged. This is another thing. Never write bored. If you're bored by what you're writing, people will be bored reading it. That's just true. So you want to make sure that you are keeping up that sort of dialogue with your reader and that you keep up that trust with your reader, because you're trying to convey this like shared human experiences. Oh, a question. How do you deal with the feelings of someone possibly reading something so personal to yours? Yes, so that is a thing. I would say write the essay that you need to write. And if you read it and feel that it is too personal, it felt too personal, then you may not be ready to share that story yet, especially if you're not thinking like this is for an audience and you just write it for yourself. Maybe in a couple years you can come back, read it again, rework it, add some more stuff. If you feel like you never want to publish it, that's fine too. The ultimate goal of the essay, I feel like, is to answer some of those questions yourself. And I think sometimes that doesn't always mean publishing. I know I'm contradicting myself from earlier, but I think that you can write a personal essay for yourself. But if you're writing a personal essay that you want to go out into the world and like do connect with readers, then you need to make sure you're doing that. But yeah, I think if it's too personal for you, then there's no need to try and get it out there. There's other works that you will write that will be just as good about a different experience that's maybe less touchy, and you can always return to it later. If you feel like you're ready and you feel anxious about that and anxious about people reading it, I think about how many people that your work will help. Obviously, never publish if you're not ready, but she also says, can you speak on heavy essays a little bit? Sometimes I feel every personal essay is sad. Yes. We actually talked about this in my class a lot. It was a very conversation heavy class. And we were like, why is every essay about like someone's trauma? But there are plenty of personal essays that are just about happy things. I read one by, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's about this author who's sitting on a train and he sees this woman reading his book and he's like, oh my gosh, she's reading my book. Like I've never in the public seen somebody reading my book. And it's an essay just all about how he feels inside, how he wants to say something to her, but he just, like feels weird about that relationship. So he just like watches her read and like watches her face and like and he never, I don't want to spoil it either, but it's also a very short essay. Wish I could remember the name of that. I can tweet it out later or put it in the link in this video when it goes on YouTube. It's like reading on a train. Anyway, yes. So even something as joyous as that, like someone's enjoying my work, can make a really good personal essay. It just has to be something that you are, I don't want to be like feeling feelings about, but what if my life is boring? Can I write a personal essay about, this is a question, can I write about a personal essay about something that didn't happen to me? First of all, I would contradict that and say your life isn't boring. There's always something going on. There's always something that you're anxious about or that happened to someone. Like, even if it's something that didn't happen to you, say my best friend broke up with her boyfriend, right? And I like took her ice cream and like brought her like food and we like watched movies. I can then use that small piece of something that really upsetting that happened to her, obviously with her permission, and write about that small thing first and expand it out. Like, oh, like my friend is hurt and like it's like this is the bad thing that she felt, right? And this is the bad thing that I felt because I care deeply about her. And take that into a broader thing. So you start little and you go broad into like the way that relationships impact us, the ripple effect of spending time with someone of spending time with someone for a really long time and then not spending time with them at all, right? There's a ripple effect of the writing there. So yes, your life is not boring. Don't write about a personal essay as if you are the other person. Like I wouldn't write about it as if I was my best friend who got broken up with. You write about your internal experiences as you see it, right? I mean, I do want to preface with I don't make the rules, so do what you want. But my advice would be to kind of reach over and like try and write about someone else's pain, but from your perspective, if that makes sense. I hope that answered that question. Um, yeah, yeah. Your life is not boring. Everyone has an interesting life. Just because it's not, you don't want anything terrible to happen to you. But if you feel like your life is not interesting, you need to start like writing stuff down because things are happening in your head all the time. Um, yes, so that brings me to the idea of persona. When you write an essay, you cannot be all parts of yourself. Especially the personal essay. You are not able to control, like, if I was to write all of me in an essay, the whole essay would be not about what I was trying to reflect on or question. The whole essay would just be about my life and like things that I'm trying to construct about myself, if it's even possible to know everything about yourself. I don't think it is. Then, so the way that we solve that problem in personal essay writing is what we call persona. To really appreciate the notion of persona, you have to just kind of think about it this way. So if I was writing a story about, or like a personal essay about my grandfather who died, then my position in that essay would be, I don't know why everybody's dying. The dog's dying, the granddad's dying. Death. Let's not do that. Hold on. If I was writing an essay about being upset about my cousin's cousin's moving, right? Then my stance in that essay would be the upset cousin. I would be the angry cousin who like didn't want their cousin to move. I wanted them to stay, and like they're moving away and leaving me. Why are they doing that? That sort of thing, right? So that is the persona you take up. Obviously, you're not trying to make like a flat character, but you're trying to stay on topic by adopting the idea that this is who you are in this moment, in this topic. So to demonstrate this, here's our writing exercise. Everybody get ready. I want everyone to pull out a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, whatever writing utensil you prefer. Or also you can use your laptop if you've just got that handy, just like a notes app sort of thing. And I'm going to set a timer. And we're going to write about a time that we have been, hurt by someone. We're going to write about a time that someone hurt our feelings, or a time that we felt just like a little bit like small, And we're going to write for probably like 5 minutes, also a timer. And so I'm going to start this now. I'm going to play some royalty-free music in the background, but mute it if you don't like it. Writing, starting now, and I'll meet you guys in 5 minutes. Time that someone hurt you, hurt your feelings, hurt you. Okay, so that's time. Start wrapping it up. Start kind of getting in your last sentence there. I hadn't listened to any of those royalty-free songs, so I was like, big song, like I don't like this. Yeah. So while we're wrapping up, I just kind of want you to look back over what you wrote, kind of try and take a step back from that feeling of being hurt, and then I want you to think about what your persona is. A fight I had with my mom and how she hurt my feelings because of something she said. And in this story, my persona, daughter, like I am hurt daughter, right? I am the daughter persona, the point of view is the place in which I will start that essay and that conflict that my mom and I had and how it made me begin to question things within myself, right? So I hope that makes sense. I recommend free writing, stuff like that, just setting yourself like a prompt and like free writing, or if you know, hey, I want to write about this fight, me, whatever, like, then I can say, okay, well, if I'm going to be hurt, daughter, let me write down how that made me feel, and you can start there and push it into your kind of your essay. Yeah, I think that's kind of all I have. I would really recommend The Death of a Moth by Virginia Woolf. I would highly recommend just kind of, The Fourth State of Matter as well by Joanne Beard. Looking at the Zenitsu format, reading from that pillow book, kind of getting yourself acquainted with the ways in which we can exist outside of that box of the 5-paragraph essay or the critical essay that we're more used to, and take the essay into a more creative point of view. I think it's important to remember that, think about it in a casual tone, but also it's not your diary entry, so keeping it more like a letter to a reader kind of thing. Making sure you remain yourself, keeping your voice. Your life is not boring. I want to say again, everybody has something, even though it might feel like it's boring. Maybe your conflict is that you feel like your life is boring when you have all these things going on. Anything can make a good personal essay. Anything that's part of the human experience. I think I read one about a turtle once. Yes. Yeah. So I think that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for coming to hang out and write with me and talk about the personal essay. If you have any other questions, you can get in touch with me on social media. My Twitter is Erin Suzanne 19, SUSANNE. And then my Instagram is Erin Suzanne Stender. Suzanne spelled the same way. Erin spelled ERIN. And then you can send me an email at erin, ERIN, .s, Stender, Stender at Gmail. If you have any questions, you want to share what you wrote about, or need any advice for how to move forward with it, yeah, I would recommend really diving into the world of personal essays because it is a great place to be, especially if you're coming from fiction writing, which is where I was coming from when I started to really get into personal essay stuff. Yes, so I hope everyone has a really great Friday, and I will see you guys later, I guess. Yeah, bye guys.